Hello everyone. We are going to start our dashboard in an hour webinar in another 2 minutes. I'm just going to put up the slides. Unfortunately, I cannot show you my face today because I'm sitting and using in front a computer that doesn't have a webcam. So I thought it's just going to be a presentation and then we will jump into Excel and use it. But yep, we will wait another 60 seconds or so before we kickstart the webinar. Let me have a quick look at the chat window. Got the inception going on here with the screen share. All right, it's 1:02. We will start the presentation now. Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar from Chandoo.org. This is a monthly masterclass where every month on the last Thursday/Friday, we will look at an advanced or fairly complex business problem and learn the solutions in about 1 hour. So we have the topic for this month is dashboard in an hour. Here is the agenda. We will I'll have a brief introduction and then we will get into the good stuff. We will set up the context for our dashboard, and we will understand the data for this particular problem. We will create a mock-up dashboard, a rough sketch of how it is going to look like. We will jump into Excel and we will use data modeling features to model the data. We will set up the core calculation engine of the dashboard, create visuals, add some slicers for interactivity, and I will share some closing thoughts depending on how much progress we make. So a quick introduction. My name is Chandoo. I run a website called Chandoo.org where I teach people how to use Excel and Power BI so that they could be awesome in their work. I have been fortunate to be an Excel MVP for the last 10 years. I'm originally from India, but right now I live in New Zealand where it's about 1 a.m. In the morning. I only got 2 hours of sleep today, but I'm planning to take a really big nap tomorrow. You can check out at R1C1 on Twitter, where I occasionally tweet about Excel, Power BI, and data and other interesting bits. I wanted to just share a quick picture of my kids. They just turned 9 this Saturday, and this is Nishant and Nakshatra. They're twins, and this is a picture of them just maybe 10 meters away from our house. And it was quite a cold day, despite we are now in early spring here, but it is really cold and they were shivering, but they posed with a big smile on their face when I took this. So now they're sound asleep though. Anyhow, let's get into the good things here. We will be creating a dashboard for a fictional company called Tring. It is a rapidly growing telecom company like Vodafone or one of those kind of companies. It's a fictional company. I'm just calling it as Tring. They offer 6 types of products. The products are your prepay connection, and then on plan, which is like a postpaid connection for mobile services, broadband, dongle services, which is where you would buy a small USB device that can connect. When you plug it in, it will give you internet capabilities to the device. And they also offer fixed landline and internet television. So those are the 6 products they have been offering. They have launched it very recently, but they've been growing very rapidly. They have launched in 3 different countries: United States of America, Germany, and Australia. All in all, in 74 regions across those 3 countries. and you have joined this up up and growing company as an information analyst, and you were given weekly data about how many customers they are acquiring, how many people are leaving the company, what is their revenue and expenditure, and how many service requests their customers are placing. So some sort of key performance indicator or metric data is what we really have. I will show you this sample data in Excel, but the idea is we wanted to create a report for a company or a situation, business situation that is fairly realistic, but at the same time not overly complicated that we would spend a couple of hours just looking at the data. Remember, the topic here is dashboard in an hour, so the assumption is that we have reasonably good quality of business data, but that's not we will not spend too much time at the data stage. We assume that the data is in a good place. The goals for you as an information analyst is you wanted to answer these questions: how our products are doing, what is going on with our products, which regions are doing well, and what is happening with our customer acquisition, because it's a startup where our focus is to bring in more and more customers. That's how we will grow. So we wanted to have a focus on customer acquisition, and then see which region or which place is giving us more customer, and also explore some trends. Right now, whenever we create a dashboard, it is important that you sit down and specify the goals. Now, occasionally you may be able to write down these goals yourselves, but often you may need to write these goals in conjunction with the audience. So in this case, as an information analyst, these are the kind of questions that you tend to answer. So you thought, okay, we'll make a weekly report or a weekly dashboard where all of these goals will be um, analyzed and outputs will be created. So that's that. The for this, because we will be using Excel for this particular exercise, the features that we will focus more, or we will use data model and relationships. We will work with pivot tables. We will use conditional formatting, map charts and other kinds of charts, and we will use slicers. Right, so that's the those are the features that we will use. Normally, when I go and design a dashboard, I do not pay any attention to what features of Excel I want to be using. Rather, I will focus on what are the goals, what kind of data we have, and who my audience are, and then I will design the dashboard. Along where the features will come and go. But in this case, because we are also operating under the constraint that we want to create and publish everything within 1 hour, we would like to I would like to set up a boundary of what are the things that we will play with, rather than using each and every feature of Excel. So this is what we will use. We will now go to Excel. I have already created a final version of this dashboard. You can download that from that particular link. I will paste this in the chat window in a minute. It's files.chandoo.org/mmc, which is a short for monthly master class 1 hour DB with hyphens in between .xlsx. That's the final file. You can also access a detailed article on this particular dashboard on that page. That page is not live yet. It will go live early next week when this webinar is done and dusted, and I can put together all the material and create an article around it. So that's 1 hour dashboard which will go live in the in a few more days, around 1st of October. But that file is ready. I will paste a link in the chat window as well, along with the update video description once the webinar is done. So we will get into Excel now. I will escape this. Let me have a quick look in the chat window to see if there is any uh, so everyone seems to be tuning in all good. I hate to do the inception thingy here, but we have no issues on that. So I will get into the Excel here, and I will have a quick demonstration, or a quick show of what is the final output that we will make is going to look like. Now, just for the sake of marketing purposes, I've called this as 1 hour dashboard. But the idea is within the next 50 minutes, we will try to replicate as much of this picture as possible. Um, so here we have a product KPI level summary of our key products, and then top and bottom regions by revenue. For any individual type of product, you can pick on plan or something like that, and it will load. This is the first time the model is running, so it's kind of slow, but eventually you could see what are the top regions and bottom regions for our ITV, internet television product. And we can compare this week versus last week versus this week new customer acquisition by looking at maps as a heat map. I can look at Australia. I could look at we'll have to cancel this error messages. I can look at Germany, or I can look at USA, and I can see what is going on with these particular regions as a heat map. So this is what we will create. Now, don't think that we start with final picture and then we come work towards it. Remember, whenever we create a dashboard, the process should always be goal driven. That is, what are the goals for this particular dashboard, and based on that we should create the output. To keep things moving in this video, I've already created one final version so that you can have a sense of what is it that you will create by the end of the video. But in real life, you do not have this picture when you start. You would start from blank screen and then build everything from there, right? So this is the final output, final dashboard. I will go and have a show you a quick look at the data, and then we will start in a blank file and build everything. So here is the data for this. Remember, everything is made up in Excel using rand between formulas. So none of this is real. We have some weekly data. Every week begins for us on Monday. So each Monday in 2018 is one row here. So January 1st, 8th, 15, 22, like that, and we go all the way up to September 24. That's the latest week for which we have the data, right? So the format of this table is like that. This is the giant table. This is the number or the fact or the data table, where several things are there. We keep track of how many customers we have, how many new customers we had in that week. This is the net customers, total customers that we have. How many new people joined that week, how many exits we had that week, because it's a telecom company. People can buy some plans, people can cancel stuff. There is exits happening. How many service requests were there in terms of calling our customer care or making any complaint or an issue or whatever. What is the total revenue that we generated, and what is the total expenditure we had? Those are the columns that we have in this format. We operate in 3 different countries: USA, Germany, and Australia. And in states, so each one has a unique identifier called store. This is not a physical company. Everything is just online. It's just we use the regions to keep track of where the customers are coming from. And we operate these different products. So that's the products that we operate. We have 6 products: prepay, on plan, broadband, internet television, dongle, and then landline. Some of them are our core products, some of them are non-core. So that's the there. And then there is another table which we will create in due course, but these are the 3 tables. So for each combination of product and region and week, so we would have store 1, which is Alabama, Monday, January 1st, 2018. Product 1, which is prepay, we had 0 customers, and we started the week with 0 customers. We acquired 106. We had 36 people leaving, and that the end result was like that. So this is pretty much how the data is made up. And now we will go ahead and open another file which has just the data, nothing else. In this file, I have nothing other than data and some images for the company logo and the product logos. So this is what we will use to build the dashboard, right? So now we have these three tables. Let's go ahead and take a take a look at the goals for our particular analysis. We wanted to answer these questions: how are our products doing, which regions are doing well, what are the customer acquisition hotspots, and what are the trends, right? This is our goals for this particular dashboard. To meet these goals, we will create a small drawing, like how do I meet these goals in that drawing. So that's this exercise is usually called as mocking up or drawing the dashboard. This is very important when you're creating a business dashboard, because then you will have a good clarity as to how everything would look like and where everything will be in that layout. So we could go ahead and create a mockup. Because it's a very small list of goals, our mockup is also going to look fairly straightforward. I made a mockup here before even creating anything else. This is in the other file that you would you could be downloading. That reminds me, I need to paste a link here, which I will do quickly in the chat window, and then we will pasted that. And all right, let's go back to the mockup. This is pretty much how I visualized the dashboard would look like in if I zoomed into 10,000 feet of that. There would be a heading, and then we wanted to see the product KPI summary on the left hand side. um, which regions are doing well. I thought rather than just showing which ones are doing well, we could show both top and bottom ones on the top. And then customer acquisition as a map of the country with what is happening in the current week, and compare that with the previous week. So this is how I visualized it could look like, and then I went and created the the dashboard that is shown here. So this is the mockup. When you are preparing a mockup like this, you could just use any software, or even make a drawing on a plain sheet of paper or on a whiteboard. I made this in Excel just by using some box shapes and things like that, and laid everything down here. All right, so this is how our dashboard would look like eventually, the one we will create. So we will go back to the work in progress file where there is only data, nothing else, and we will start building everything here. Now, because we have data for all the weeks in 2018, I think this is about 9 months. So uh, there is about 35, 36 weeks, or even more number of weeks of data here. But we don't really need to know everything, because this is a live dashboard. Every week it would be updated. So I thought the focus for this could be just the recent 13 weeks, which is approximately 1/4 of data, right? So we can just limit the amount of data to the last 13 weeks, and then build everything for that. And as we add new data, we just refresh, and it will pick up the latest 13 weeks. So this is pretty much how most of the time when you create any business dashboards you would build. You might have access to several years worth of data, but you would always limit this to a window of recent 1 year or recent 7 days or whatever. So in this case, we will limit to recent 13 weeks. So that's so to prevent showing everything, what we want is we want to set up a start date and an end date to the report. End date would be in this case, I'm just manually setting these up. End date is September 24th, Monday, and the start date is 13 weeks before, so 25th of June is when it would begin. And then we will create another table called week, and then start date. We will now create this table manually. These kind of tables are usually called as calendar tables, where we create another mapping to the data. So we want to limit this to 13 weeks. So I will just enter 1 and drag until 13. Look at 13 weeks. The very first week would be start date. That is that date. I've given that a name rather than referring to it by cell, plus 7 times this, and we will fill it down. Remember, all Excel dates are just numbers, so this is how it looks, but I can make the formatting look like this in Mondays, and we will see all the 13 weeks. The first week would be 2nd of July, 9th of July, like that, or you could even change this so it would map to 25th of July, right? And then once this is there, I will turn this also into a table, select everything, press Control T for table, and we have a new table. This table, we will call it as calendar. This is pretty much what we want to analyze. Everything is dynamic here, so if I change my end date, I move it one more week, then all of this will roll over. We could automate this step by writing a formula here, but I'm not writing a formula because this is randomly made up data. There's no new data coming in next week, so I don't need to make that dynamic. Right, so now we have 4 table: calendar table, that's my products table, this is my regions table, and then that's the data table. Let's go ahead and set up the connections. We'll go to data, relationships, and we will specify the relationship. The first one is data table store is connected to regions table store. Okay, so this is the step where we are modeling the data. The next connection would be data table week calendar table start date. I have named the columns in a somewhat clumsy manner, but and then data table product is connected to products table product. So 3 different connections because we have 4 tables. The core table is data, and that is connected to products, regions, and calendar in this format. So now everything is connected, and we are good to go. Remember our mock-up where we draw this picture. We want to see products KPI summary, and then top and bottom regions, and this thing. We haven't specified what should go into products and KPI summary. So this is where when you are drawing these boxes, you leave some details out, and then as you start building, you would go ahead and fill up those blanks. Depending on how much time you have, what kind of detail you want to show, what is it that your audience prefer, you can add or omit the level of detail here, because we are trying to create everything in a short span of time, just so that I can show you you can build really cool, interesting looking stuff without spending too much of time. We will try to make this fairly comprehensive but not overly complicated. So this is the picture I had in mind. I had to make several of them before coming to that kind of a thing. The idea is we want to look at what happened this week. This week is the week for the report. This is how many customers you had and how many new people. Green colored up arrow is the new joinees, how many new customers we acquired, and how many people left that week. So that's the thing, and that is the trend for the last 13 weeks. It's a startup, it is growing rapidly, so every week you keep adding customers. That's why it is always going up like that. That's that line. And then revenue for that week, we made about $1 million in prepaid program. And how is that revenue going in the last 13 weeks? How many service requests we had, what is that trend look like? And the next one is a calculated one called ARPU, which is average revenue per user. It's a thing that many telecom companies keep track of. So that would be this divided by that essentially. And what is the average revenue per that? And a bar chart to indicate how big this number is in relation to other products that we have. For example, on prepay, we make $6 per user, whereas on broadband we make $21 per user average revenue. So to kind of give you a sense how big small that number is, with respect to this. That bar chart gives you that. So that's the picture we want to create for each product. We have 6 products, but because the dashboard was getting too big, I've shown only 4 products, and just so that you could get a sense of how it would be. So we will create that picture now. In here, everything will be driven through pivot tables as much as possible, because they can work very well even when you have large volumes of data. In this case, we have about 17,000 rows of data, so it's not very large. You could still use formulas and calculate everything, but we will use pivot tables so that there is less work done in terms of manual formula writing. So we will add a new worksheet, name this as pivots. Everything will go here, and we will go to insert pivot table. Once you create a data model, you can just go and insert pivot tables in a blank cell. Just select the cell, insert. Automatically the source of the data would be defaulted to data model of the workbook, and it will add a pivot table there. I'll move the pivot table. I don't want to have it on the very top corner, so I'll move it somewhere here, and insert. The first pivot table will give us answers for that product summary. So here we will go ahead and list all the products, and the name of the product. Now when I put the names go in alphabetical order. I don't like the names to be in that order. I want them to be in my product order. So I will add a product number as well, so that 1 is prepay, 2 is on plan, like that. So this is the layout that it gets. And while this layout is good, it kind of, this staggering is not what I need. I just need that number there to control this order. So I'll go to design, report layout, and change it to tabular form. Turn off the subtotal, so we get this kind of a layout. All right, so these are my products, and now I wanted to see what happened in week 13, the latest week. So we go to calendar, week, and I'll add that week there. It will add all the weeks, and using the filter, I will just unselect and pick only week 13. That's my latest week. So I want to see what happened in week 13. For week 13, we would like to see total customers. So here is my total customers. I'll get rid of grand totals as well. How many new customers we had, how many exits we had, what is the revenue, what is the expenditure, how many service requests we had. So this is the week 13 picture, right? Everything is here. We just need to now create the formatting so that everything looks like this. So all of these numbers are there except my trend lines and the average revenue per user. Okay, so we will go ahead and calculate ARPU, a made up measure. You could calculate anything for that matter. You could even calculate gross profit, which is revenue minus expenditure, or requests per user by dividing this with that, anything like that. This is just to show you how to add some extra stuff on top of an existing pivot table. So we will take revenue, divide that with customers. Now normally when you try to connect to cell in the pivot table, you might get pivot data. If so, you can turn it off. All we have to do is go to pivot table options and generate get pivot data. You need to disable that. I have done it earlier, so that's why it is gone. And I can see my average revenue per user by product, and that's that. So now that the numbers are here, let's go ahead and start making the dashboard. So I'll add dashboard worksheet, which is blank. We will leave first few rows and first column blank for any cosmetic purposes, and start laying out things here. We want to see all the products. Initially I started with all the products, but then I realized we didn't have enough screen space there to show all the 6, so we are only showing the first 4: prepay, on plan, broadband, and internet television. That's what we shall do here as well. We will select these first 4 rows, everything including that much. So everything, we'll select everything, Control C for copy, and then come here. Our dashboard will begin here. So somewhere in the white space here, I will paste them as links, right? So these are here, but they're still a reference to my my worksheet, pivot table worksheet. I'll just increase the font size here so that you can just follow. We will reduce everything later. So this is how the cells will look like, and then what we will do is we will start building the dashboard. Now I'll just delete some so that this closer to the top corner. Okay, so here is the prepay. So I'll move prepay around here. Just select the cell and drag it here. It'll come there. We want to see how many customers it had. That's that. How many exits and entrances it had. So that goes there, and this goes here, and then we wanted to see what is the total revenue and total service requests. So this one goes here. Remember, we don't need to show everything. So the expenditure information we are not showing anywhere, and average revenue per user there, right? So we will move around these things and place them like that. So this is this, and I'll make this column slightly bigger, and now we will just change the zoom to normal so we can see everything clearly. If this is where a little bit of experience of formatting things or working with graphical representation of data would come in handy. Because I have quite a lot of experience in this area, I was able to do format and come up to right picture in the first couple of tries. Whereas if you do it for the first few times, you might spend more time coming up with a view that looks satisfactory for you. So I initially toyed with showing total customers and increase and decrease somewhere else, and different ways of representing, but I finally arrived at this way of looking at it, and I thought this is pretty decent, so I left it there. Now before we start making that picture, we also need to have the trend, that is previous 13 weeks, what happened to customers, revenues, and service requests for all the products. So we will create that pivot table as well. We'll go to the pivots, add another pivot, insert pivot table, and in this pivot we will see by product, and same thing as earlier, which is changing to tabular, no subtotals, no grand totals, and then week, we will add a week here. This will give me all the weeks, 13 weeks like that. I might just show the weeks there, and we want to just see how many customers or how much revenue and how many service requests. So we will add customers, revenue, and service requests like that. So all the data is here for us to create those trends. It is in a somewhat clumsy format. So we will now, using that at the sigma values thing, if I move it around, I can get the pivot table into the right shape. So I'll move it like this. So for each product, how many customers we have, what is the revenue, what is the service requests, and we will get that. So this order is customer, revenue, service requests. In the dashboard, we are showing customers, revenue, service requests. So that's the order, and this is my previous 13 weeks data, and then blank is all the prior weeks. We don't need to show the blank, so I will go and filter away blank thingy so that it limits the data up to 13. Now that is there, we will select this entire number range, go to insert, click on sparkline, and add sparklines right here, right? So this will give you all the trend lines. Those are the sparklines. It gives you sparklines for all the products, including dongle and landline. We won't be able to show them, but that's there. So I will copy, I will select everything, cut it from here, Control X, and paste it in the dashboard somewhere here. So the sparklines are there. We'll select the first 3 cells and move them like that. So this is my customers, revenue, and service requests trend for that. So now that everything is here, I can go and start by merging these three cells and make this 16 points nice and big. Apply some formatting to the cell. It's a number, so we will format it as a number, um, like that. And using alignment, we will just align in the middle. These two are also numbers, so we will select that. These two are numbers, that one is a number as well. So select everything, press Ctrl 1 to format, um, and apply the formatting. That one and that one are currency, so I'll format them as currency. um, and this one probably needs precision, so I will just adjust that, um, and we will get this. So now all of these are done. I'll apply some formatting for the spark lines as well. Select the spark lines, go to design, change the spark line color and weight to something like that, so they look nice and readable but not too strong. We would like to show an up arrow for new customers and down arrow for exits. So select the new customers, conditional formatting icons, that arrow. If you select only one cell, it will always have up arrow. This one will go to conditional formatting, apply like that, but that one gets green arrow as well. So we will go to manage rules, edit that rule, and then say that the first cell should get red arrow, which is here, and the other cells need no, there is no rule required for the others. And there you go, that's the picture that we wanted, and it is created. So this is prepay. I will apply some formatting on this, click on that, and go and select the images for prepay, internet, broadband, ITV, copy them, paste them here. So that's my prepay. I will move them down, like that. So the next one would be postpaid, or sorry, on plan. So I'll move that there, and then this is pretty much how we need to be doing this, right? So it's just a matter of, once everything is there, adjusting them and moving things around until we get the picture that we want. So we will do the same for broadband. Again, move it here, select these things, adjust them there, and select the revenue, put it here, and average revenue per user will go there. And then the last one is ITV, and we'll put that there. These guys will go here. So everything seems a little fast. That's because I've done it earlier, so I know where to move what. But if you're doing it for the first time, you might spend um, some more time. I'm not even sure if I'm moving the right things where they're supposed to be, but let's just hope it's good. All right. Yeah, I think I made a mistake somewhere with respect to, yeah. We forgot the service thingy. These are not right because they're all over the place now. But once everything is there, we can oh, we can just adjust the spark lines into the necessary position, and once that is there, what we want is each box to be formatted in the same way as the above one. So we select that, click on format painter and click format painter, click. We could even lock the format painter by double clicking. There were only 4 of them, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. And then everything else is not needed, so I'll just clear all for that little section. So that is the product summary part, right? The product KPI summary part. The only bit missing is that data bar, which I will quickly apply now. Here data bar would be same as that, um, and um, yeah, these spark lines are not properly aligned, and maybe even wrong, because the way I'm moving and talking, I made a mistake somewhere. um, but so the other cell would contain that, and then we will use control to select everything, go to data bar and apply a data bar, manage the data bar rule, and just say show the bar only, we don't need the number there. And you'd get that, and it's a relative comparison, so you could see where the maximum average revenue per user is coming. We will use these white cells to add labels. That's what I've done here, to add labels and apply some borders and everything, so that that works good. All right, so now that that is done, I will insert a row here, and then just type the title, product slash KPI summary. This is my heading, so I'll make this nice and big, and merge it to the center. We will fill it up with some yellow color like that, and add an outline boundary around it. And once you turn off the grid lines, you could see how it is coming together in a very nice and easy fashion. So this is the first part of the dashboard. We have done product KPI summary, and now we have another 20 minutes to complete the remaining white space, which is what we will do. We will take a look at how to build top and product bottom regions by revenue for any one product. So this is again, some of these look fairly complicated, but because we are using pivot tables and data model, it's all fairly straightforward. I'll go and insert another pivot table. In this one, we want to look at regions, all the regions, and I want to look at by revenue. So we will go ahead and add revenue. What is the total revenue? And let me just see, is it yeah, last 13 weeks. So this is the revenue of all the regions across all of the time. We will add week as a report filter to it, and rather than looking at all weeks, we will multi-select and exclude blanks. So that means it will only give me the first 13 weeks, and then I will sort this largest to smallest. So this is my regions, and then I will go and apply value filter top 10. That means just show me the top 10 regions, don't show everything. So this is what it is. We'll get rid of grand totals and subtotals on this pivot. So these are my top 10 regions in the first in the 13 weeks. This is for all the products. So we can now add a product name slicer. Right click on the product name and add it as a slicer. And if you filter by broadband or dongle or on plan or prepay, you can see, and as you select, the names would change depending on what is the best region for that. So these are my top 10 regions for landline, right? So that's that, and once that is there, we will just select this pivot table, go to analyze, and insert a pivot chart. We would like to have a bar chart like that. That's pretty much what we wanted, and we will spend a minute quickly formatting this bar chart. We don't need any of these little filter buttons or the legend or anything, so I'll get rid of that. I will turn off the chart title, select this, go to analyze, and disable the field buttons option. We don't need the field buttons. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to fix the formatting. Before we do anything, we will just use one of the predefined designs. So that's what I did. I used that design to immediately create this picture. This chart begins at an arbitrary point of 190,000. This is not good. So I'll select the axis, press Ctrl 1 to format, and set the minimum to 0 because it's a bar chart. It should always begin from 0. And then we will select this. I would like to see it top down. The best region should be on the top. So we will say categories in reverse order. So this is how it comes. And this axis, I want to set up the display units in thousands, and delete that as well. And here we will go to value field settings, number format, and change the number format to currency, so that it will come up with this kind of a picture, right? So once all of this is done, we would just simply copy this pivot table, paste it here, and go to value filter, select top 10, and then switch it to bottom 10. So now we want to just see the bottom 10 regions, and the order would be smallest to largest. We will create one more pivot chart exactly like this. Unfortunately, I can't copy, paste, and change because that's not how it works with pivot chart. So we will go and insert another pivot chart fairly quickly. And at that point, I will take a look at the chat window to see if there are some questions. I know it's going a little faster than the usual thing, but that's because we are on. We could as well use a Mission Impossible background tune here, because that's pretty much what we are doing. We are trying to cram as much as possible into 1 hour of Excel time, and see how far we could go with this experiment. Um, and just change the formatting and all of this, and finally we go to design and apply that. So we get this. So both charts are ready. I'll select everything including the slicer using control, cut them from here, move them to the dashboard. So we get all of them there, and I can position these charts like that. We will move them slightly down, select this slicer, put it here for now. We will set it into 6 columns and make it nice and wide, and placed this slicer there like that, I guess. And right click on the slicer, go to slicer settings, and disable the header option, so only the body of the slicer is shown. I'll move everything down a little more so that there's enough space for the heading on the top, and we get this. We can adjust the chart sizes a little. I guess they look same size now, yeah. And I can now play with this. Both charts would respond because they are, once we created the first one, we copy pasted the next one, so the slicer connection is also copied over, and I can see this. We could do a little bit of formatting on this. This is what exactly I've done here. I have formatted this in green color, that in orange color, so the top 10 is in green and bottom 10 is in orange, but it's fairly cosmetic. It seems there is not many questions, so feel free to post any questions in the comments window. It's just that I would not be able to look at them and answer while I'm talking, but I would look at them time to time to see if there is some pressing issue with respect to what is happening on the screen. But if you scroll through the comments, you might find the download link for the file that has the complete dashboard. Feel free to download it right away and keep it open in a separate window so that you can see how everything is put together and learn from that. All right, so this is my top 10 and bottom 10. We will do one cosmetic change. We will format this in green color and that in orange color, so at least we can see what is what, and I'll leave it there. And then we will go ahead and set up a title here, which is my top and bottom regions by revenue, 13 weeks, dollar zero zeros, right? And we will use simply merge middle, and then 16, I think we used 14 points, bold, like that. So this is my that part of the report. And then the last one that we wanted was a comparison between this week and last week of customer acquisition. So we will create that as well. We will add one more pivot table. Usually when you are adding pivot tables in the same worksheet, it's a good idea to leave some blank spaces in between, because that way if the pivot table is growing, pivot tables are growing things, they can always have more rows or sometimes even more columns. By giving that breathing space, you will not have terrible Excel crashes. All right, so I'll give some space and then I will insert one more pivot table. This would be hopefully the last pivot table for the day. And we want to see the regions. We will start off by adding a country slicer. Within that country, what states are there? So if I go to Germany or USA or Australia, I can see the states. We don't need grand totals or subtotals for that pivot, so I'll get rid of them. And within this, I want to see in this week and in previous week how many new customers we had. So we go to data, new, and add that. So this is all of the new. And then we will go to calendar, week, and add that as columns. So we'll see by week how many new customers we had in Australia. And then here I can just unselect everything, because we are only looking at this week and the previous week. We are interested in 13 and 12, so that's what we will use. So this is what happened this week, 13, and what happened in the previous week in Australia, in Germany, in USA. And I can see all of that. Now I wish we could just select these two columns. That's the data for USA, and go to insert and insert a map chart, right? If you are using traditional Excel 2016, 13, or whatever may be the Excel that you're using, you will not find map charts. Map chart is only available in Office 365 based Excel. Hopefully in 2019 version of desktop Excel it will be there. If you don't have map chart, you could just insert one of these other charts that work just as fine. Because I have map charts, I would like to show them off, and that's why I'm making. So if I can select these two and make a map chart, that will be good. But we get this annoying chart blocker message, which is saying you can't create this chart type with data inside pivot table. That means map charts cannot talk to pivot tables. So we will create our own data for chart section, um, which is state this week, last week, and state would be here. This week would be 13, and last week would be this. And then we will just simply drag it down, because we will look only one country at a time. That's the presumption. We just need to drag it until US. That's the one with maximum states and in our data. So when you go to Germany or Australia, you will get it. Now there is no problem having zeros here, but having a state called zero is not good. So what I will do is I will modify this formula with an if formula. If C151 is equal to 0, then give me empty space, else give me C151, right? So this way it will remove those blank zeros with replace them with empty spaces. So we'll select these two first, state and this week, and insert a map chart. Because this is not a pivot table, it can create happily. It'll give me this warning though. That warning says we plotted 16% of the locations with high confidence. That's because there is no state called empty space in Australia, which is cool. And I change to Germany or USA, I can see those states like that. All right, so this is my chart. Before we make the last week's chart, we will do some quick formatting here. There are not many options available, but I can get rid of chart title. I can decide what happens to the legend. I would like to show it on the left side here, and then I can select the chart, press Control 1, and tell how the formatting should happen. Rather than lowest value, I want to start this from 0, and then highest value. It would be defaulted to whatever highest value for that state, that country is. But if I switch to Germany or Australia, then it might change the higher number. So that will not make it easy for us to compare one with another, because we will have two charts. I think having a number, fixed number like 800 or 1000 would be good. Looking at the data, I think 800 is fairly reasonable, so I will format it like that. And you can change the colors also. You can pick any coloring you want, because new customers is usually represented by green color. I thought we'll go with green. So I format it like this, and then we will copy and paste this chart again. We have now two charts. One is this week's, the next one is last week. For this, select the second chart and move the whole thing like that. We will get it. Unfortunately, again, I have to format this thing. I wish we can copy paste the formatting, but probably not. No, it's not gonna work. So we will have to do the whole thing again, which is fairly annoying. But uh, number 0 800, and yeah, that looks good. And we will move the legend to, oh, I think this one we left, and that would be right hand side. All right, so we will have this week, last week, like that. And then I can cut these two chart, Control X them, and then paste them in the dashboard like that. Move the this week chart here, move the last week chart here, adjust their sizes. And we now have last week versus this week comparison as well. We will move the country slicer to Control X that and paste it here. And we may need to adjust the sizes of everything so that there is enough screen space for the slicer. We will have the slicer in 3 columns, and like that. Right click on the slicer. We will get rid of the header and adjust the button height so that we can fit it here. And then we will type the title, which we can merge all of these cells. Maybe I can just do it like merge everything and fill it up with yellow color, and then just say last week versus this week, new customers. And that's pretty much how the dashboard is kind of done. We are 1 minute to 2 o'clock, so I will stop talking and switch to the other dashboard. That warning message that you get on the charts, there's no way to turn it off, but I think it's not a big issue. Maybe I'll have to figure out how to. We could make it a dynamic range, but I'm not really sure if these new charts are compatible with dynamic named ranges. So this is how it would look like in about 50 minutes of build time, assuming you have reasonable experience with pivot tables and simple formulas, and have an understanding of the basic conditional formatting and making charts part. And then you can spend some more time formatting. That's pretty much what I've done after creating it. I spent some time adding labels, adding small borders around everything, laying them out in a more readable format, adding a caption so that it is easy to understand what is going on. For example, if you zoom into this, you could see that we are not only talking about new customers, but we are also giving a text description of last week we had this many, this week it went up to that, and showing a direction with percentage movement there, so that it makes a very interesting narrative of what is going on. Likewise, here adding some extra captions and that, like that. But other than those uh, little cosmetic things, pretty much our dashboard, the work in progress one here, and this one are highly comparable. The only things remain missing here is adding a title, which is just a matter of copying the corporate logo. I'll paste it here, and adding the words weekly dashboard. I'll align them in the middle, make it nice and big, and we'll go with the gold color theme because that seems to be the thing for this dashboard. And there is that's pretty much how the dashboard can be constructed. I will recap the ideas, but let me just take a look at the comments. um, yep, no questions, so feel free to ask questions now. um, um, yep, just post the questions. I think there were some questions posted about Excel school, which I will talk later, but for now, that's the file. I will paste the link in the comments once again. It is, oops, I don't want that. That's the link for downloading the file. That's the complete dashboard that you're seeing here. Let me recap some of the ideas. We can the things that we have done are we have used conditional formatting to kind of give the sense of what is happening with new customers and exits. I think you can apply this idea when you're talking about, for example, employees hired versus let go, or leaving. That's another concept where we could use in any situation where you would have some incomings and some outgoings. You could use these icons. That's not their intended purpose, but you can apply them. Likewise, using pivot tables value filter to show top 10 and bottom 10 for a particular product. And that's one more thing. And if you look at these slicers versus the slicers here, these slicers have boundaries around them, whereas the one on the dashboard that you download, there is no boundary. This is because what I've done is I've selected the slicer and I've created a custom style, which is just I picked one of the styles, duplicated them, and in the duplicate style, I went to the whole slicer, format, border, and a none. There should not be any border around it. And that's pretty much it. That's the only thing that I've done, and then I've applied that style to the slicers so that there's no boundary, so it kind of blends in with the rest of the design. And adding some extra little bits there. The map charts are pretty good, but I find initially I wanted to have a map of India, US, and Australia. Those were the state countries where, in fact, New Zealand. But I found that despite the best efforts, some states would never get plotted, even in New Zealand or in India. I think it's the Bing search engine that is doing the magic there. For some weird reason, I could not get Himachal Pradesh plotted on the map, no matter how hard I tried. Maybe I need to spend more time with this particular visual, but it works fairly well for large and established countries like US and even Germany and Australia. So those are what I chose. And yep. Can you detail how you got the comments last week? Yeah. So here in the pivot table, what I did is, remember we calculated this week and last week, so then I totaled the sums, how much we had, and I generated the caption. It is all linked, so it would change. It's a simple formula that takes those two numbers and writes the text using a little bit of text formulas. If you have a read, I'm sure you can understand. It is in the pivot tables work page sheet. um, so yeah. Uh, that way I think it is more dynamic. You can even generate more complicated text messages in the dashboards using this technique. I've shown you a glimpse of what is possible with that approach. So that's Debbie's question. Let's Yep, I'm as I said upfront, just to keep it more marketable, I've said 1 hour dashboard. But I believe creating this would take about 80 to 90 minutes, or maybe closer to 2 hours if you had some false starts, or you start with one vision and then you have a change of mind later. Then it might take more time as well. For me, I made the random data in Excel, which took me about 30-35 minutes, but that's outside the scope because we are assuming that you start with some clean data. So once the data is there, it took me about between 1 hour to 90 minutes to come up with this. This is because I've tried various things and then I decided that this is what we could reasonably achieve, uh, assuming you have intermediate to advanced skills in Excel or even intermediate level of skills, because nowhere we have written any complex formulas or anything that requires um, a lot of explanation. It's just that I've assumed you already know your pivot tables, your conditional format, and your basic chart creations and slicers. So with that assumptions, we flowed on. But if you don't have those skills, then you might spend more time creating it. Now let me share some more ideas for learning. I've kept a page open here, so maybe I will switch to that. There is a on Chandoo.org. There is a dashboard section with examples. So if you're looking for some inspiration or ideas or just plain tutorials on how to build these kind of things, that would be a good place to start. There are hundreds of examples on this page with all kinds of interactive dashboards and KPI dashboards, and it just keeps on going with several examples. Some of them built on very old versions of Excel, some of them built on newer versions. But the bottom line being, they're all really good and highly recommended reading. Everything comes with a free downloadable Excel file. So this is like a treasure trove waiting to be explored and learned. So that's that. There is this is something that is fairly straightforward. It would take me about 30 minutes to build a dashboard like this. I didn't want to create a bunch of charts and call them dashboards, so I wanted to build something more complicated and still show that we can build it in about an hour. That's why we took a different route in this particular webinar. But yes, check it out, and this is a good place to learn more about dashboards. If you would like to have some sort of a structured training, I also recommend the Excel School program, where you will learn all the steps necessary to create reports and dashboards like this. If you are interested, check out Excel School on Chandoo.org. There is a training, Excel School 2.0. That's pretty much where you would go and find information and sign up if you're interested into that program. Um, Everything is pivot table. Sandeep asks, is a pivot table or power pivot? We are only using pivot tables. It's just that the pivot tables are all connected. The tables, source tables, are connected. So we usually call that as data model. And even on this structure itself, while we calculated average revenue per user outside the pivot table, as a simple calculation of this by that, um, we could uh, on this pivot table, we could simply enable power pivot. Everything is there in Excel. It's just we didn't want to do that. You could right click and add a measure. You could calculate sum of customers, sum of revenue, and then divide one with another to get average revenue per user right there. But I didn't do it because that would require a little more understanding of how Power Pivot works and how it is. It needs to be set up. So that's why I'm not showing that, but it is possible. Once you have a relationship model, you can just add measures and do so much more. All right. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. I will stop the screen sharing. Or I'll just maybe switch it to Excel School slide and leave it there. Let me just close these files. I'll save that. When my plan is, by the time people who watch this on recording, you don't even need to hear the plan, is to publish this entire thing as a tutorial on our dashboard page, which will happen sometime early next week, which is the week of first week of October 2018. So hopefully once that is there, you can just download both completed and the work in progress version, along with a full recording of this video and some images and step-by-step tutorial kind of thing. So that will be there. But yeah, if you want to learn more, you could also check out the Excel School program. uh, any other questions? Let's see. Abhishek asks, what is the live streaming timing for Excel class? If you tell our store schedule, that will be beneficial for us. The idea is I would like to do these once a month, every the last Thursday of the month. But we are now also rapidly closing towards the holiday season. So my last class would be in October 2018, and then I will pick up again in Jan 2019. Um, I would like to promote these events in a bigger way, but it's just um, yeah. I think this month I've done better job of giving at least 3 week notice to all the newsletter members. So one way to keep up with is to be a part of the newsletter or become a member on YouTube. That way you would immediately see as soon as I announce. I plan to announce the event in the first week of the month on YouTube, and then wait, send an email to all the newsletter members and run it in the last Thursday. So yeah, of course I will also miss talking to you, but I think I cannot get up in the middle of the night during Christmas season. We are expecting some relatives and friends over during the holidays. So but there would be one class in October when we will do something on maybe Power BI, uh, and then we will pick it up in 2019, and I'm hoping to do more of these in the next year. All right, I think that's it. We are now 15 minutes past our 1 hour mark, so I'll stop it here. Thank you so much for tuning into the webinar. I hope you have downloaded the file and had a play with that. Please feel free to look at the data and come up with your own visualizations, which is even more fun. And if you do end up creating something, please share it with me on the YouTube or on Chandoo.org blog, so that I can also take a look at how you're creatively looking at this data and solving it. And that's all for now. Thank you so much, and talk to you again next month. Bye bye.